Hi, I'm Ken Gidge, and this is The Art of Politics. A little over a year ago, this station came on the air with the first TV show. That means in-studio TV show, and it was myself with my partner in crime, right over there, Bernie Streeter. How are you?
I'm doing good. How you doing, Ken?
Good.
You made it. Huh?
Yes, I made it.
Now you're a star.
You made it.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, you're right. I did. Yeah.
1 year ago, a little over a year ago,
Yeah.
we sat down here and we did the very first show.
Time flies when you're having fun.
Yeah, well, I'm having fun then, not in the engineering room. You can just imagine. Well, okay, let's just get it out of the way. You had cancer and it's in remission. Explain to everybody out there exactly what happened.
Do I have to?
Yes, you do.
It's a form of leukemia, and it affects the the red and white blood cells. So I went through a long session of chemotherapy, which takes the heck out of you. I mean, chemo really does a job, but it worked, and so now I'm in remission, and I still see the doctor every month. I have my blood tested every 2 weeks. So yeah, things are much better. But
You lose a little weight?
Yeah, I did. And it's not an easy way to lose weight, but I'll tell you, I did. Yeah, I lost about 70 pounds.
Are you gaining any of it back?
Yeah, a few. More than I should, according to my wife. But
well,
yeah.
I wanted to say something because I have called you a number of times.
Yeah, and I have declined because I just wasn't up to it. But yeah, I'm in great shape for the shape I'm in.
That's, well, look at me. You got a problem. But I really did want to get you on, the first year because it's important. Access Nashua, this little TV station is doing more and more and more. And of course, we must thank Richard Gagnon, the engineer who not only puts it all together but keeps it going and has to wind me up occasionally or
wake you up, right?
What? Pardon me?
Wake you up?
Oh, yeah. Well, I did, actually. I was sleeping.
Come on.
No, I was. No, I wasn't asleep. I just woke up. I had a rough, well, as you know, I'm a state representative.
Yes.
And I was up in Concord.
Does it take a lot out of you, Ken? I mean, don't you just vote the way the speaker wants you to vote?
No.
You don't?
No, that's the problem.
Oh.
I would have a nice time if that's the case, but I'm in commerce, banking and insurance, and you should see the bankers and the insurance companies, especially the insurance companies today, just really want to take so much away. And today I got a sort of an argument with the person from Anthem who is their lobbyist. Yeah. And she's talking about 2014. And I'm going, excuse me, this is a real bill today. Yeah. Here's a problem. Do you want optometrists to make the same as ophthalmologists? They do the same job? No. I'm going, okay. So it's stuff like that. Yeah. Stuff like that. But you spent a lot of time in politics, 2 terms, and I think, didn't I sort of help you get elected the first time, if I remember?
Well, if you're referring to the hypnotized chickens, no, you didn't help me. But really, that was around for 30 years. That's a long time. And you know, the latter part of the 60s, 70s, 80s, and then I left Concord in the year 2000 when I became mayor. And I often thought maybe I'd like to go back to Concord, but the opportunity hasn't presented itself, and you know, I'm getting a lot grayer up top. So
No, it's silver. I think it was mentioned.
right, yes.
And you told me to comb my hair.
Right, yeah, I did. Yeah, I did. Do you own a comb?
Yeah, no, actually a brush.
Oh, a brush.
You see, and I got something to tell you, because Richard may notice it. But I'm watching this TV show, and they're talking about this guy who's having a hard time with everybody. And he doesn't know what to do with his friends, and he has no friends, and he can't do anything. So what he did was he parted his hair on the other side.
Oh.
Because that's what they see.
Yeah.
Okay? You look in the mirror, what you see is not what other people see.
Right.
So I parted my hair this way. And I've had nothing but trouble. I got to get good. But at least I have a little to part.
What's better than hypnotizing chickens, Ken?
You know, that's a classic.
It is a classic, and I don't know if you want to talk about it or not, but you roped me into this situation where I went out and they lined up a dozen chickens.
13.
13? Oh,
13 chickens.
And then I'm still convinced that the guy that did the thing, he twisted their neck a little bit. And so I think they were gassed.
Valium.
Yeah,
Yeah, Valium.
oh, well, in any event. It was fun.
Well, I was doing a radio show, and we had this lady from California.
Yep.
Who said that she could hypnotize chickens, and they just happened. She's a hypnotist, and they just happened to have this big thing in Nashua.
That's right. Yeah.
So
the International Association of Hypnotists.
Exactly, and she says I can hypnotize chickens. Well, excuse me.
Yeah.
And so I got to go find chickens, and you know chickens because you grew up.
Oh yeah.
You know, a chicken farmer.
I know. I could clean a chicken in about 3 minutes.
Yeah, well, not these 13. So I go looking for chickens, and believe it or not, they're hard to find.
Of course, yeah.
But I find this farmer, and I go to his house, and he's got a cane, and I said, I'll rent 13 chickens from you. He says, well, I'm not sure. He says, I said, but do you have any? He says, yes, I do. So we walk out, and there is this chicken house, and there's no chickens outside. And I said, why are there no chickens outside? And he says, the raccoons. I says, well, first of all, I want to see if you got chickens. So I go over and I open the door and I step in. I swear to God, they were gangster chickens.
Yeah.
I really mean, they would look vicious. So anyway, I got out of there. We got the 13 chickens.
Yep.
And Shelley.
Shelley is her name, right? But when she had started to hypnotize the chickens, she did something to their neck. And I think what happened was that they
It went like this. You see, and it took a while for it to go back.
And I think that they were stunned.
Well, we'll finish the story.
Okay.
Who shows up? Channel 9 shows up.
Oh, my God, yes.
Remember
you're
that?
Right. Yeah.
Associated Press shows up.
Yeah.
A few other people show up, and he gets out of the car. You get out of the car, and I remember you putting your arm on me with a smile. You said, what did you get me into?
That's right.
And I said, I'm not sure, but this ought to be fun.
God, that made the national news.
David Letterman.
Oh, yes.
You are standing there like a mayor.
Yeah.
There's Shelley, and you can only see the back of my head.
Hey, great.
But that was radio. I did have fun on radio. That was interesting, and you could do more.
You had a late night program too.
Night Orange.
Night Orange, yeah.
And I remember.
What was it? Why orange? Why not purple or pink or?
Well, I swear to God, I'm thinking about this is true. I'm going down the highway. It's about 6 at night. I'm trying to think of what to name the show, and I'm going down the highway, and there's an orange in the middle of the highway. Just an orange. So, Night Orange. It worked well.
That's interesting.
Yes, that's not that interesting.
Should I believe that?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
That's what, and we really had a good time.
Yeah, it was a good time.
Yeah, and
you had people sending you pizzas, as I recall.
Well,
And then charging and said, yeah, I
yeah,
remember they
if
said,
I remember correctly, you were supposed to come on,
oh, come on.
and you didn't come on, so I called the pizza place, remember?
Oh, yeah, so you,
And I had to write Night Orange on the pizza, and the guy didn't know you were the mayor, and he's knocking on your
so he's
door.
delivering the pizza to my house.
I know.
It was good. Okay. All right. Where do we go from here?
Well, I'm not sure. It has to be up. It can't
Gotta
go
be up,
down.
yeah.
Politics. Front page of the Telegraph today. Donchis and our mayor, Donnelly Lozo, is having a little spat, a little argument. Did you see that?
I did, and I think, Jim Donchis is a very capable guy. He's been actually, I feel, has been running for mayor for the last 3 years.
Yes.
And he's knocking on doors. He's doing everything that one should do. But the question is, what's the memory of the Nashua voter, and will it go back when he was mayor? Because you recall the teachers got like a 17 or 18% increase when he was mayor, and that left a bad taste in a lot of people's mouths. But very capable guy. Big question is, will Mayor Lozo run again? I suspect she probably will. She seems to be doing a good job. She likes the political world, and she has a style of her own, which she should have. And but it would be an interesting race because Jim Donchis will work.
Oh, yes.
He will work.
Yes. He will. He is one of those people who enjoys, the 7 o'clock in the morning to 7 o'clock at night, knocking on doors.
He ran against me, I can't remember when, it was probably in the 80s, for the executive council, and he knocked on almost every door in the district, which was incredible. He started April 1st. His law firm gave him a sabbatical until the election, and he went town to town, and everywhere I went, Jim had already been there, and that was the closest election I've had for the executive council. And I think the margin of victory was about 5,000. But I said to myself, I want to determine myself how effective is house to house knocking on doors.
Yeah.
And so I went to every house in Ward 8 that year, and I carried Ward 8, but lost all the other wards. So to me, it proved that it works. That the art of campaigning is person to person, knocking on someone's door, asking for their vote. And he will do that. And he has been doing it, as I say, for the last several years. So it should be an interesting race.
I heard the other day, now please, I don't want anybody to quote me, but I heard that there was a possibility she wouldn't run. Now, I don't personally, I heard that, I don't believe it, I believe she will run.
I will tell you this, that 8 years, devoting 8 years of your life, literally 7 days a week, many times 18 to 20 hours a day, takes a little bit out of you. And you don't get much credit for it. Of course, the Telegraph has been pretty good with Mayor Lozo. But the longer you're in office, the more people are out there wanting change. And so I found after 8 years, I just didn't. When I started, I started with the attitude I was going to change the world. But then I realized that you got to work with 15 members of the Board of Aldermen, all of whom, with the exception of 1 or 2, supported my opponent. And so it took a while to get that to gain their confidence. And then the second time around, as you know, Mayor Davidson decided to jump in as former Mayor Davidson as a write-in candidate, and we were concerned about that because we didn't know who was he going to take votes from, Steve Bolton or myself, and fortunately we won it. And but then toward the end of my second term, there was a lot of antagonism between some members of the board and the mayor, and I night after night I would drive home and I said, why am I doing this? I don't need this. But on the other hand, I said, I think I'm doing a good job, and the people obviously felt I was doing a good job. But It was a great run. It was a great time, and I enjoyed it thoroughly. But with Donna Lee, I had the feeling that she probably will run again.
I do too. So when I said I heard that she may not, I don't think that that's factual.
That's maybe wishful thinking on some people's parts that she wouldn't run.
You know, since I've been at the State House on my third term, you know, the first one was a mistake.
Whoever thought you would win?
Yes.
The second time was, you know, obviously. That was probably tougher the second time because that was Republican.
Absolutely.
That was a Republican year.
Absolutely.
And you defied.
There's only 100 and I think 3 of us to 297.
Right. Yeah.
The Republicans had a supermajority. That was awful. It was probably the worst 2 years of my life. Really, it was. I don't think people understand here in New Hampshire. We're volunteer government.
That's right, and you make the awesome sum of $100 a year.
Yeah.
You know, it's incredible.
I just got a ticket. I have a state, you know, easy pass. I just got a $2 ticket for using it.
What do you mean?
I got 2 tickets today, and by the I love this one for the people who think politics are fun. I go up there to get sworn in. This time, the garage is filled. All right.
Oh, so you parked on the street.
Parked on the street.
Yeah.
Guess what I got?
Yep.
A ticket.
A ticket. Yeah. Yep. Unfortunately, or fortunately for me, we had the 5 councils had parking places on the street. But wow, that's interesting.
Yeah, and there's no there's no.
My dad served a term in the legislature in the '70s, and he got pinched for speeding. I think in Henniker from Keene to Concord, and I reminded him that there's a provision in the state constitution that legislators cannot be arrested and incarcerated.
On Wednesdays.
Oh, is it just Wednesdays?
No, the day of the, yes, I know.
Okay, because
Yes.
he checked into it, and obviously that wasn't the case. But the reason being that for that law to go in is because some unscrupulous people decided that one way to curtail a legislator's vote is to have them arrested and held for 3-4 hours, so they couldn't make it to Concord to cast vital votes.
And I must say, I think they did this in the last 2 years. I know
Really?
a number of people who got I know a number of people who got stopped and were held up for a long period of time on some very tough votes. The right to work law was certainly one of them, and from the gay marriage to the marijuana, I mean, it just went on and on and on. And but on Wednesdays, if you're heading towards Concord, supposedly they give you a pass. I mean, you can't go 100 miles an hour because there's people always in front of you.
Why Wednesdays?
Well, that's the session day. That's where you're in session. When you, like today, I was in committee, so.
Okay, yeah. Oh, I see. Oh, interesting. Yeah, okay. Well, hey, what's one way to support the state is to pay your fine.
Yeah, get tickets, but I don't understand why I got tickets this time.
No,
I just said,
I don't,
maybe it's some sort of a head tax for politicians. I'm not sure. Nationally, were you surprised?
Very much so. I did not. I knew that the presidential was going to be close. In fact, I felt that Governor Romney eventually would pull it out, but he didn't. I was more surprised at the state of New Hampshire. I mean, this is the first time that we've lost two congressmen, a governor. It just amazes me. But Ken, everything is cyclical. The bells goes one way, next 2 years could go the other way.
Well, you can't.
Do you think that the state has really changed that much politically?
Oh yeah.
Do you?
Yeah. Oh yeah. There's a different culture. The last 2 years have, nobody should have a supermajority. I'll tell you what happened to me. That
was a fiasco.
Oh yeah.
The last session. Yeah.
When you have a bill and you want to talk on it, you go up and you wait and for your turn. They put a 9-minute limit. Okay. So a lot of people out there never read the bills. They can't. There's 1,000 bills. You can't read them all, and there's amendments. And so you get a lot of information when you're sitting there. Now, your party tells you the way they would like you to vote. So twice I went up to speak. There was only 2 people ahead of me, both Republicans, both times. And then when I got to the well, they said, sorry, time is up.
Ooh.
And that just wasn't fair.
Wow.
But that's changed.
Yeah.
So,
well, that reminds me of something that's going on in the city now, that they want to change the meeting times of some of these boards because it prevents the public from attending and commenting. Board of Public Works is a good example. Although when I chaired the Public Works board, anything that of a controversial nature, we always had the meetings beginning at either 5, 6, or 7 rather than 2 o'clock in the afternoon.
Why 2 o'clock in the afternoon?
Tradition, I guess. You know, and that, of course, if you keep people keep city employees beyond 5, then some of them need you know, are entitled to overtime. But this is an interesting thing because you got this clash between a leading member of the Board of Aldermen, an alderman at large, and the mayor on that issue. And
you know, the interesting thing is, it has been over a year since the TV opened, and as I've said to the people just now, that we were the first people to do an in-studio show. Well, we're talking about this right now on camera, about what's taking place here in the city of Nashua. If that's not what Access TV is for, it's for nothing else.
No, you're right. You're right there. You're right. And this is where part of your fee that you pay for Comcast, you know, where part of that revenue goes to help support public education.
And it almost didn't happen. I've got I went to one of the meetings before they even had the stations, and they asked, "Do you want to?" I said, "Sure." Yeah. And then when they were ready to sign the Comcast bill, I went up there, and Fred T-Boone and Presley was there, and I'm saying I'm the guy who went in there and said, "Stop," because I brought Concord in, I brought Manchester in, I brought the people over in I think it's Litchfield where they have like 5 stations, and I said, "Stop." I said, we're first for everything. This time we're going to be first to be last to get the station. So it was one of the aldermen at large said, well, wait a minute, didn't anyone go to the meetings? And whoever was running the board then, I won't mention any names, said, oh, no one was there. I said, I was there. So they held it up. You're going to sign the contract. They waited for 3 or 4 days later. Yeah. We got 1 station, which we probably could have got 3 or 4 if we really wanted them. And so here we are, and you were the mayor. Yep. Yep. And so whatever takes place, I mean, it's not that they're going to thank.
And even then, there was controversy by some members of the board that, well, who's going to censor the content of the programs? You might have, for instance, you might have a movie actor who has been in controversial films. Should the city promote that? If this movie actor wants to come in and have his own program, what's he going to say? You know what I mean? There was a member of the board that wanted censorship.
There is censorship too. Believe me, there's censorship. Oh yeah. Oh, they will. Oh, first of all,
well, you got the censorship's coming from the committee, or is it coming from City Hall?
I think there was an agreement because nobody wanted to give money to the station so the station could run, even though we had legally, rightfully, we had money coming in.
That's
in fact, I got a story to tell you. It's when they were the big election, when the aldermen and aldermen at large were running, I called them up. I said, "Do you want to come on?" And no one would come on.
Really?
And finally, Clements says, "All right, I'll be down with McCarthy." Yeah. Both of them together, and they couldn't make it. I didn't get the message, so there was no show. And he says, "You know, one of the reasons why they didn't want to go on is that some of them didn't want the station and made it very, very clear inside the chamber that they didn't want this station. And I said, you know, I would have never brought that up.
No.
That's not really a professional thing to do.
Well, I was impressed with the volunteers who served on that committee. And what do they call it? The Community Access Board.
Boy, it was the board, yeah.
And they, you know, and some of them have remained on. You know, the chairman, Andrew Sonata, is I think was one of my original appointees. And from what I understand, he's doing a good job. I mean, it's a you know, it's a volunteer work by these board members, and
a lot of things.
I wish that the decision makers would allocate more money from the Comcast revenue to you know, to this station.
Yeah,
but
they're running it for, I think it's under $100,000 a year. Now, give me a break.
Yeah.
Come on. I mean, that's you need somebody full time, but still you need people you do have to pay. So I mean, that's
yeah,
really
you're right.
nothing.
No, you do, yeah.
And again, I know Richard doesn't like me to pat him on the back too much, but this is a guy who really keeps it going and has been very nice, actually, to me.
And he's well experienced too. He ran a good ship in Goffstown.
Yeah, 17, 18 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well.
Very, very.
We can't solve all the problems in the world today, Ken.
No, we can't. But at least we can have some fun with them. I mean, but I'd like to get back to the national, because I know you like national politics. You were certainly under the impression, like I was, that Romney was going to take it.
Yeah.
How could he lose his home state and then the state that he has his summer house in? Which I believe they're all up for sale.
Have you heard that?
No, I haven't, but I'm just saying.
Well, I don't know. It's a beautiful layout up there.
Oh.
We went up there and had some good times up there. But what happened, it was, I guess the Republican Party was a little bit complacent. I mean, we knew that Obama was going to get every special interest vote that he could and did. When you consider the minority segment of our population, minority voters, most of the voters who are receiving some sort of public assistance, we add those two together, and it's in the millions.
Well,
the question is, did they vote? They did during his first term, but I don't think they voted as much the second term. But
no, that's factual. Yeah. But something happened. We're up in Concord 2 years ago, and the voter registration. And so I go to Bill Gardner, who's been on the show, and hopefully he'll come back.
The father of the New Hampshire primary.
Boy, I'll tell you. And
he's keeping New Hampshire having it first. Yeah.
Yeah.
Good guy.
I think one of the best. But he says to me, he says, Ken, he says, I think in 10 years we might have had 6 or 7, complaints, and not all that went to court were found guilty. Why? But of course, he must go along with what the legislature says and does. And that went right across the country. That was like a Republican thing. And then the voter IDs, etc. And do you know, Ward 6, I think we had 800 people come in and sign up on that one day.
Wow.
There was lines coming out the door.
This was this past
the last election. 800.
Wow, that's unheard of. I didn't realize there was that many. Yeah.
Oh, all across the city. Yep. So it was.
If you had said that happened 4 years ago, I could believe you. But second time around, interesting. Hey.
That's how we want it, in my opinion.
Politics is a crazy game, Ken, as you know.
And they didn't think he was going to be that good at it. I guess he's going to turn around to be one of the best politically. Well,
remember what they said about Harry Truman when he was in office. The worst president we've ever had. But history has treated him much better than that.
I got a story about Harry Truman.
Have you?
Yep. True story. I went to, there was a guy named, I can't remember. It's awful for me to remember the first name because my name's Ken and not Hossinger, I think his name was, and I ran into him. And he, in World War II, he was one of the people who interviewed the Nazis when they caught all of them, etc. And anyway, he was in very political, but always on sort of the outskirts. And one day he gets invited to the White House to have dinner with Harry Truman and one of Harry Truman's friends, just because I guess his wife, Harry Truman's wife, didn't like Washington.
Yeah.
She just, I don't like it, I'm out of here.
Yeah.
So anyway,
Right, yeah.
they're at this little dinner place, just in the White House. The three of them are sitting there, and there's this young kid, he's trying to eat, and so the president goes over and he starts playing a piano, and he stops, and he turns around and he says, you know what I'd want to be if I wasn't president? Piano player in a whorehouse.
Okay.
I swear. Now, does that sound like?
That sounds like Harry Truman. But it doesn't sound presidential, though.
No, it certainly doesn't. There's a great biography out by him, by McCullough.
I haven't read that one.
Yeah, no, the more you hear it and see it, he just was firing a great general, and I mean, he was just off the.
I read both, both Romney's autobiography as well as John McCain's. And of course, John McCain's is just something that's incredible, the way he was treated when he was a prisoner of war, and then to withstand that and come back and perform very well for this country. Governor Romney, on the other hand, maybe he was too slick. Maybe he made a special point out of not engaging in name calling, or at least public name calling. And I think some people in the public wished that he would have been a lot stronger before the debates came, because he did show in the first debate that he had some gumption.
Oh my God, that was so awful. Yeah. I think what he did to the president, it was just, and I couldn't understand how the president could come back from that. I had no idea.
Well,
but of course, this guy's from Chicago too.
That's true.
That's true. Chicago's a tough place to do politics. I mean, if you can make it out of Chicago, what did Kennedy say?
Yeah, that's right. You think it's any worse in Boston?
Oh yes.
Right.
Kennedy was I heard this from Tom Kelly. Tom Kelly knew the Kennedys pretty well, God rest his soul.
Right.
One joke was that he could have done better, but his father didn't want to spend any more money to buy the votes in Chicago.
Yeah. Well, okay.
And we have a Kennedy back in, who looks, who's Joe Kennedy, the oil guy's son. Yeah. My God, time flies. That's right. He looks like a good kid.
Yeah, he does. Let's be honest. All of the Kennedys, some of them had some faults, but they were all good representatives of their particular, either their state or their district, which is really what a political person should do, is represent the wishes of your constituency. And the Kennedys did that.
And they paid for it too.
Well, they did.
Sadly,
they did. But that's. Well, did you see Lincoln?
Yes, I did. The movie Lincoln.
Yeah. I thought that was good. I didn't realize that back then there were a lot of horse trading back then.
Oh yeah.
I just never expected that. And as primarily that was what the movie was all about. It was really buying the votes of the senators who would pass that piece of legislation, Emancipation Proclamation. Interesting.
Carl Sandburg wrote 3 books on it, and I read 2 of them. I believe it or not, I met Carl Sandburg 6 months before he died. I didn't know who he was. I just knew that he looked like he was important, so I went over and shook his hand, and we talked a little bit. And
you have a habit of meeting important people, don't you?
Yeah, well, and note, no one will admit they met me.
Well, that's okay.
But
you ever thought about writing
Well, I'm as you probably know, I'm doing well.
The life of Ken Gidge. I mean, that would be kind of interesting.
Yeah, maybe nobody can put it together. The Globe did a so I do new artwork. I'm not sure if you saw it, 3D art, which is brand new.
I read that.
Well, we have some. We'll show you. And New Hampshire Chronicle is coming down on Monday.
Oh, good.
This Monday, going to do a story on it.
Good.
And we do here in the studios.
Well, I've always said you're a legend in your own mind.
That's right. We got to move it to other people's minds too.
Let me just put a plug in now for the Wild Irish Breakfast.
Oh yes.
Plus Company has done great work over the years for assisting people with handicaps and people with that have problems with their emotions and so forth. And done a fantastic job, and we just 2 years ago we reached the $1 million mark that we raised for
how much?
For the $1 million for the Plus Company, and this year it's going to be not going to be on St. Patrick's Day, unfortunately, because St. Patrick's Day is on a Sunday, and it has to be on a weekday for us.
Yeah.
And so it'll be on March 15th at the Radisson.
And they're always sold out, or
so we're getting there. Years ago we decided not to sell individual tickets, but they still are available if people would like them. But we aim primarily at companies buying tables. But this year we're going to have obviously the Mayor Lozo, Governor Hassan, and Peggy Gilmore, who is just a riot. And there's an attorney from Manchester, and I forgot his name now, but he's supposed to be very funny. I haven't auditioned him yet. And we're working on somebody from Washington.
Really?
I talked to Senator Ayotte no, not her, but to get somebody. She's doing well.
She's doing well.
When she called, I said, Senator, you're getting more press than the president.
Yeah, well, I was on a committee that studied the FRM, which was when she was the Attorney General.
I remember you did good work on that committee. You called me a couple of times.
That's right.
Yeah.
And we found out that she was asked if she knew what was taking place, because this was a big deal, and everyone didn't seem to do their job. The Attorney General, the securities, and banking. And they all left. Securities guy left, banking guy was asked to leave, and she gets out and runs for the Senate.
Right. Hey.
I think if she was there another 6 weeks, or I'll say probably another 4 or 5 months, maybe she wouldn't be a senator.
Well, it was closing fast with Ovid and Montaigne, because it was a pretty close election, that primary, Republican primary, and. Some people have said if the primary period is a couple of weeks longer, that he might have been able to overcome her vote. But I think she's done a good job for the state of New Hampshire.
She's from Nashua, too.
Yes, you're right. She's from Nashua. And she's conservative, as I think New
Conservative?
I think New Hampshire.
I think it gives conservatives a bad name.
Oh, come on.
I know I'm getting in trouble. Look, we can get away with this.
Right.
We can't bring chickens in, although we may try one of these days.
Okay. But in any event, I was surprised at the outcome of this election. I knew Charlie Bass was in trouble, but I didn't think he'd lose it. And Frank Inter, I was told was solid in the Manchester area.
Yeah.
But, he didn't make it either. And the House, my God, did that swing?
Did it swing?
Oh.
Well, we talked about the supermajority. No one should have a supermajority, Republicans or Democrats, because it's really not nice. Yeah. You can do things, stupid things, and get away with it. Yeah. And I think here in New Hampshire, the Speaker of the House, William O'Brien, though he's a conservative, okay, I've talked to him. I was always friendly with him. He was always talked to me, always let me into his office. But he had a hard time, too, because there's new groups out there called the Free Staters.
Yeah, you're talking about conservatives. Yeah, you're right.
Oh, yeah, they Free Staters, and then you get the Libertarians who are working with the Free Staters, and also the Tea Partiers. And they were caucusing, and they were all Republicans.
Yeah, it had to be. They had to be rough. It had to be rough.
For anyone, for the Speaker, for
and the let's see, the liberal press, of course, was always on his back. The only favorable newspaper in the state for Bill O'Brien was a union leader. And but hey, that's politics.
Well, William O'Brien is welcome here at this table anytime he wants, and I think I would have fun with him, as long as you don't tell him about the chicken thing.
Oh, I won't tell him about the chicken.
You know,
And I won't tell him about the pizza delivery that woke my family up about 11 o'clock at night.
No, but I noticed you ate it.
Yes, I did.
It was
Yes, I did.
nothing like being woke up by a pizza guy and then for free and enjoying it.
And I think I had to pay for it too.
No, I had to pay for that one.
You paid for that one?
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, and I paid for it later too, but not with my pizza.
Great.
And a lot of people don't know what we're talking about.
Well, yeah, we mentioned that you had a late night an evening program. Night
Orange, yeah.
Nighttime Orange, and if you found fault with somebody in a nice way, you would needle them. And
did we needle them?
Did you needle them? Yeah.
And when I started that program, it's interesting because I just got fired from one station for interviewing the Vice President of the United States, and Todd Feinberg was running the other station. And he calls me up, he says, I got a place for you, but what did you say to the Vice President? So I said nothing.
Who was the Vice President?
It was Gore, Al Gore.
Oh, really?
I got fired for interviewing him.
No kidding.
Yeah, because the person who owned the station was so conservative, never thought I could do it. Yeah. And I got fired for inviting.
Hey.
So anyway, he said, what show would you like to do? I said, I want to do a nighttime show about 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock at night. I don't want to be bothered. He says, oh, come on. Nobody listens to the station at 9 o'clock at night. And I said, look, if you want me to do a daytime show, I'll do a 2-hour daytime show, but I want something at night. So someone called up and said, nobody's listening to the show. And I said, okay, let's see what we can do in 20 minutes. Come to find out, it was more listened to than, than any other show. Yeah. And you know who I miss not in the business is Ed Leicius.
Yeah, well, he's got a pretty good job with the city, and his dad was the one that I think I appeared on his open mic program the night before he passed away. So I was his last interviewee, and nice guy. And the Leicius family has done a lot for the media in Nashua, as well as for the city.
Well, he was my first boss, and
Ed?
Yeah, he said the greatest mistake he ever made was hiring me. Okay, well, I got a couple of stories now. See,
oh my God.
Ed, you gave me a hard time. I'm going to get back into it.
How much time do we have left?
We already have enough time to tell that story.
I haven't had dinner yet.
A few of them. I'm telling this story.
I'm wasting away to nothing.
Yeah, well, let me finish the story about Ed Leicius.
Okay.
Now, first thing he said was, there was a time where you had to have equal time. That meant if you had a governor, you had to have the opponent.
Right.
And then that went away. Yep. But Ed said, no. We are going to have them on equal. So that's the way I was sort of brought up. I never used bad language.
No.
I suggestive. But so anyway, Ed calls me one day. He says, look, I have to go out on some fire business. At that time, he was a fire. Would you do my
You're talking about Junior now.
Junior.
Oh, okay.
Junior.
Right,
I'm sorry.
Okay. Yeah, okay.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
He had to go out. He was, I've got to go do some business. Would you do my daytime show? So I said, certainly I will. So I get there and he says, if you say one thing, if you're mean to her in any way, if you mention my name, if you do anything, I will fire you. And I said, I just got here. What am I going to do? He says, I know you. You'll do something. It was one of his teachers.
Oh, my God.
So I get there, and I'm talking, and I know I can't mention his name, and she looks around. She sees, oh, there's Eddie, little Eddie.
Little Eddie, yeah.
Yeah,
okay.
of which Ed Leicius didn't like that.
Yeah.
Break, he knocks on the door, he says, come out here. You're fired, get out of here.
Ooh.
So he walks, what do you mean you fired me? I told you not to bother this teacher. I said, I didn't bother this teacher. And I brought your name up. She kept going on with the story. So I followed him to the elevator, and I said, Ed, you're going to fire me? He says, you're fired. I want you out of here. And I said, Ed, we're on break. I probably got about 10 seconds to get back there. So he goes, all right, you're hired. Get back there. I'll see you tomorrow. But he was a good person, and I would like him to come on. Those were the days, radio, when people listened to radio a lot.
They sure did. They sure did. Bargain Box?
Bargain Box, that was like the
Open mic.
hits.
Yeah.
Murray Parent.
Yeah.
And I don't think people realized how strong radio was at one time.
It was strong. Yeah, because we didn't have TV in those days. Or at least it wasn't. It wasn't as popular as it is today. But
And you wake up in the morning and you turn the radio on.
there was a guy in Keene when I was growing up. I can't remember his name now, but he would slurp his coffee every time, and people said, well, that's rude, but people began to like that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and because that was his trademark.
Yeah.
Hey.
A lot of interesting people. Well, we got probably about 12 more minutes.
Oh my goodness.
They're going to have to put up with it.
Oh, gee. Okay. All right.
Well, don't look like you want to get out of here. I didn't do anything bad to you
No,
yet.
you haven't. No. No, my stomach is grumbling. Okay. Tell me about Concord.
Well, he's taking over the interview. There we go. Concord is very interesting this year. It's I think it's 227 to whatever.
Yeah.
So the Democrats are in the majority. And I've got to tell you, I thought I was treated very poorly by the Republicans, not O'Brien or his, but by the Republicans generally. I'm up there now, and you can't believe what a couple of Democrats have done to me.
Really?
Yeah. One today,
Ooh.
and I said to this person, I was on a subcommittee, right?
Yeah. Ooh.
So sitting beside me is a Republican and a Republican in committee. Oh. The Republican to my right has been there for 2 terms. I've been there for 3 terms. And beside me is this lady it's her first term. And she is ultra-conservative. She's on the subcommittee, and then I find out they made her the head of the subcommittee. So I go in and I look at the chairperson, who wasn't there last year, missed 2 years. I said, look, for 2 years, I've got nothing from the Republicans. And, for supermajority, that's fine. But I said, when I come here and you put in charge of a subcommittee from a person who just got here and is ultra-conservative, I mean, we're Democrats. And you got one Democrat who's been there for 3 years. So I said, I don't want to be on any more subcommittees. But if you need me on a subcommittee, as long as, it's a fair group.
Yeah, wow.
Oh, I think the Democrats are trying to really bend over backwards. For instance, who's sitting next to the former Speaker of the House?
A good friend of mine, former state senator Mary Nelson, who worked for me in City Hall, and what an unholy alliance that is.
I can't believe it. I turned around and they're probably about, in that hall it may look large to people, but it's not. The seats are like this.
What we're trying to do is that the seatmate of Bill O'Brien is Mary Nelson.
Is Mary Nelson.
Interesting.
And I thought
and she won that election by not spending a nickel or campaigning. Did you know that?
I believe it. She is like one of those people who, motherly and picture pocket. And I don't mean it that way.
Give me your take on the lady, man, what do you can describe it, who was elected, and then they discovered that there was something in her criminal record in the background. And,
okay, that was Stacy Lott.
Yeah. What was your take on that? I thought that people piled on. They were really piling on.
Well, I've got a lot to tell you about that. Right at this table, sitting right where you're sitting, she signed that she was getting out of, she was quitting, right here. And what happened was a transgender person, and but she had a background that wasn't. She did everything she was supposed to do, but didn't pay a fine or something. And under the state laws, that means that you can't be a state representative, though she was elected, freely elected. And then she signed up again to run, and that's where the Attorney General dropped, the ball. They should have, found out probably about 3 weeks.
So you agree then that if you do your time, and then in many cases the sentence has been suspended 3 or 4 years or whatever. So your contention is that they've got to complete the whole sentence.
That's what the Attorney
That's
General
what he
finally
says,
came down and said yes.
I don't know about that, but I just thought there was so much piling on, in both instances, that this poor person didn't know which end was up.
I agree with you. She is a Democrat. She's been at the Democratic meetings. I have a completely different.
But she ran and she was elected.
Right. It's what I was just going to say. I have a completely different idea now of politicians. When you go out there and you knock on doors, and at the end of the race this time, people have literally, as they're closing the door, another person's knocking on the door. I'm telling you. So I'm walking around with a sign that says Gidge, 4 cars in the driveway, and I'm knocking on the door. Now, I know they're looking. I know they're not going to open the door. And it's not for me. It's for everyone.
I know.
5 or 6 cars in the driveway, and no one's answering the door for anyone. They've had it.
I know. You're right. You're right.
But as you said,
how many times did you get these robocalls during this past election?
Awful.
Yeah, it is.
Just absolutely
and unfortunately, political calls are exempt from the no-call list.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. That's why. But hey, I know. I mean, I can even I got calls from Republicans. I would say yes and just hang up. But it's a very inexpensive way of reaching a lot of people in a short amount of time.
And we, as a person who ran for a political office, they certainly have called me to see if I wanted to do it.
Yeah.
And I would call people, and if I got an answering machine, I'd say, "Hi, this is Ken Gidge. Honest to God, I'm really calling you. This is not a robocall."
Yeah.
Because people were just.
Yeah, right. I did that my second term, and I don't know if it did any good or not, but I didn't get any complaints. But the people who were for you would tell you. You see them on the street. I got your call, and thanks for calling. And little did they know that it was just a recorded message.
Well,
now, does it work or not?
We're so sophisticated now.
Yeah, I know.
I mean, that we're just at this particular time, politics, and I was what Norelli did, the Speaker of the New Hampshire House, is she's put Republicans and Democrats all over the House,
which I thought was a good move.
Except for the 4 Republicans that got behind me and the 4 in front of me, and
well, that's called stacking the deck.
That's called stacking. But I'll tell you what, I didn't like it because I have Mary Gorman, who was my seatmate. She's 1 seat over now.
Oh, okay.
I mean, they love us up there. We got moved. I got moved literally in the same row from A over to the same, no closer to the aisle, just equal. But I didn't think we were going to like it because you can't talk. You want to, what do you think about this? What do you think about that? But guess what? It's working out.
Good.
I think it's working out.
Well, I guess that's what she wanted.
Well, when you were up in Concord, they had that Nashua, what was it, the Concord Hotel or something, where everybody would go after the session and have a couple drinks?
The Highway Hotel. If the walls, of course the walls are no longer there, but if they could speak, wow. Because in those days, you know, the legislators stayed overnight. Those come from, you know, from at least.
Oh yes.
And it was a watering hole, you know, for many legislators. And there were some interesting goings on at that time, but I never stayed overnight at the at the Highway Hotel. But my first experience in politics was when Walter Peterson was governor, and I was a freshman. And he said, "Come on over to the Highway Hotel. That's where all the decisions are made."
I believe it.
And yeah, he was right. Yeah.
The problem is that we don't talk. We
No.
do not socialize. And what I heard in Washington is a lot of people used to move there and live in Washington. Now they're there a lot of them are sleeping in their,
Yep.
okay, their little offices,
right.
and then going back on the weekends.
Yep.
And so nobody can socialize. And I think that's very important.
It is important. It is important in politics, particularly if you can socialize with the opposition party, because they said that one of the best relationships Washington has seen was when Ronald Reagan was president and Tip O'Neill was Speaker of the House.
How could they not be two Irishmen, for God's sakes, real Irishmen?
Well, I never really considered Ronald Reagan a real Irishman. I mean, Tip O'Neill, I mean, yeah. But in any event, they got along exceptionally well, and things moved because, you know, Ronald Reagan was I thought was a good president, and Tip O'Neill was a strong speaker, but that
In all politics
that
are
was-
local. That's was
right,
his great saying.
But look at the relationship today with John Boehner and President Obama. I mean, there's hardly any relationship whatsoever.
No, and the word from Boehner was after the election was over, he said, "I will never go to the White House and speak to him alone."
Yeah.
And that's pretty bad. And on the night of the election, the president calls him.
Yep.
And the person who answers says, "I'm sorry, he's in bed and he doesn't want to be awakened." Then he calls the minority and the Senate.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, he's in bed and he doesn't want to be disturbed. When you get to that point,
I know.
if a president calls you,
Of course.
if you,
Yeah.
no matter what,
Absolutely.
that was a very, very.
What's the politically? What's the most interesting phone call you have received since you've been in the political world?
I would say George Bush calling my house,
Okay.
senior.
Yeah. Oh, good guy. Good
Yeah,
guy.
yeah, oh yes, because I did the National Inventors Award Committee,
Right.
and
Yeah.
I made, then Morris Orell introduced, he made a speech,
Yeah.
introduced me, and then I introduced the vice president, and his wife was there regarding,
good.
but then he called, and I was, yeah, right.
Well,
And your interesting call?
the
You
day-
must have some.
Well, but no, the day Hugh Gallen died, he was,
Ah,
and I remember the call from Dayton Duncan. He said, "You know, the governor just passed away," and we knew he'd been sick, but we didn't know he was that sick. But that was also the year that Jimmy Carter was president, and they held a memorial service in Representatives Hall, and it was and Jimmy Carter came up, and he didn't have many friends in New Hampshire at that time. And I remember walking on the second floor, and down at the end of the corridor, there was this lonely figure. And I said, "Who was that?" So I decided I'd go down and say hello. It was Jimmy Carter.
you're kidding me.
And he had come up for Hugh Gallen's funeral.
Wow.
And but yeah.
Well, listen.
But we got to do it again, Ken, and I'd love to, because there's so much that you know, from your perspective and mine, that we could talk about and get along with the with divergent views.
Well, there's a lot of people out there who really, really wanted to see you.
Well,
and
thank
you know, I did call you when you were really sick.
You did.
And I
know.
and I just felt, oh
Well,
God.
Hey, it's
Because we had some good times.
Yeah, right. We had some great times, and it's you never know how lucky you are until you're in a position where you might not be around, and then you get people calling, and I really appreciated that call.
Well, we're glad you're here, and you're going to be back before a year.
Okay,
So.
yes, I will. I will. I
Okay, so
promise.
this has been the Out of Politics. My name is Ken Gidge, and you can get me online at Gidge World. I got a Gidge World, by the way.
Good.
Yes, and it's an art site. Get on there. I'm going to give you my telephone number, which is 864-9332. Email address is kgidge@aol.com. I'm sure I got a few other things. Oh, Facebook, you can befriend me. And this is Ken Gidge with Bernie Streeter, and thank you very much.
Thank you, Ken.
All right.
Good to see you.